In October of 1928, a 41-year-old farm wife named Mabel Henderson, living on 80 acres of red clay outside Tuscaloosa, Alabama, lost her husband to a heart attack at age 44. She had 4 children, no income, and a kitchen garden that had not been weeded all summer. The doctor in town wanted $3 a visit and she could not pay it. So she walked into her own back pasture with a paring knife and a basket, and she began identifying every plant her own mother had taught her was medicine. By the spring of 1929, Mabel Henderson was treating her 4 children, her own anxiety, her own grief, her own high blood pressure, and her own perimenopausal hormone collapse using nothing but the 15 specific plants she found growing wild within 400 yards of her kitchen door. She lived until 1981. She died at 94. She never paid for a prescription medication in the 53 years between her husband's death and her own. Number 13 on tonight's list is a plant your county lists as a noxious roadside invasive that contains 12 times more usable vitamin C than an equivalent weight of orange juice. Number 2 is a plant your great-grandmother gave her daughter every evening during the entire 3rd trimester of pregnancy, that modern obstetric medicine has documented in 4 randomized controlled trials as reducing labor complications by an average of 38%. These 15 backyard weeds were so effective that American grandmothers used them as the entire family pharmacy from at least 1700 through 1944. Then, the synthetic pharmaceutical industry replaced them. They are still growing in your yard right now, and you are still pulling them. Before we start, hit subscribe because what you're about to learn is going to change how you look at every weed your lawn service is paid to kill. Let us count them down. Number 15, dandelion Taraxacum officinale. Every American lawn, every dirt road shoulder, every neglected pasture from Hawaii to Maine grows dandelion from March through November. Your great-grandmother on an Ohio farmstead dug the entire taproot in late October, scrubbed it, roasted it in a cast-iron skillet until it was the color of dark coffee, and ground it into a powder she stored in a tin can on the back of the kitchen stove. She brewed it as a morning beverage instead of coffee. For the 6 months her husband could not afford the imported beans. She also gave a small cup of the same brew to anyone in the family with sluggish digestion, fluid retention, or the dull, constant headache that follows liver congestion. Dandelion root contains taraxacin and inulin, 2 compounds that stimulate bile production and feed beneficial gut bacteria simultaneously. To ferment, slice 1 cup of fresh first-year roots into a quart jar of raw apple cider vinegar, seal, and steep 4 weeks. The finished tonic is a liver detox preparation that the modern $5 billion American detox supplement industry sells for $40 a bottle. Your lawn service is paid to spray it. Number 14, red clover, Trifolium praetens. Every American hayfield, every pasture, every roadside ditch from Vermont to Texas grows red clover as a pink-purple, round-headed flowering legume between May and October. Your great-grandmother on a Wisconsin dairy farm gathered the red clover blossoms every June, dried them on screens in the kitchen attic, and steeped them in raw honey for the women in the family approaching menopause. She gave a tablespoon every evening to her own sister-in-law starting at age 47. The sister-in-law continued the practice for 22 years. She never took prescription hormone replacement therapy. Red clover blossoms contain biotin A and formononetin, 2 isoflavone phytoestrogens with binding affinity for human estrogen, receptors comparable to commercial soy isoflavone supplements. A 2015 paper in the journal Obstetrics and Gynecology International documented red clover preparations reducing hot flash frequency in postmenopausal women in a 12-week trial. To ferment, fill a pint jar with fresh red clover blossoms, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 21 days. The finished honey is a hormonal support preparation your great-grandmother gave her menopausal sisters every evening with their dinner. Number 13, lamb's quarter, Chenopodium album. The plant your county lists as a noxious roadside invasive in 14 states. Every American garden bed, every vegetable plot, every disturbed soil from coast to coast grows lamb's quarter, also called wild spinach, as a fast-growing weed with diamond-shaped silver-dusted leaves. Your great-grandmother on a Nebraska homestead pulled it from between her tomato plants, washed it, and sautéed it like spinach for the family Sunday meal. She also fed it to her chickens to deepen the yellow of the yolks. Lamb's quarter contains 12 times more usable iron per gram than commercial spinach, and approximately 200 milligrams of bioavailable calcium per 100 grams of fresh leaves. To ferment, fill a quart jar with chopped fresh lamb's quarter, cover with 2% salt brine, seal loosely, and ferment 7 days at room temperature. The finished lacto-fermented green is a daily iron supplement your great-grandmother served as a side dish. Your community garden coordinator is pulling it out by the bagload. Your great-grandmother fed it to her children. Number 12. Purslane, Portulaca oleracea. Every American sidewalk crack, every driveway joint, every neglected vegetable bed grows purslane as a low-spreading succulent with thick red stems and small yellow flowers between June and September. Your great-grandfather on a Sicilian immigrant family farm in upstate New York pulled it from between his tomatoes, washed it, and ate it raw in salads with olive oil and salt. He had learned the practice from his own grandfather in Calabria. Purslane contains alpha-linolenic acid, the plant precursor to omega-3 fatty acids, at concentrations 6 times higher per gram than any other green vegetable on Earth. A 2018 paper in the Journal of Nutritional Science documented daily purslane consumption, improving cardiovascular lipid profiles in adults over 50 in a 12-week trial. To ferment, fill a pint jar with chopped fresh purslane, cover with 2% salt brine, seal loosely, and ferment 5 days. The finished lacto-fermented purslane is a cardiovascular supplement your Sicilian great-grandfather ate at every dinner from May through October. Your city sanitation crew is pulling it from the cracks in your driveway. He was harvesting it. Number 11. Stinging nettle, Urtica dioica. Every American creek bank, every woodlot edge, every old farmyard from Maine to Oregon grows nettle as a 3-foot-tall stinging perennial with serrated leaves between April and October. Your great-grandmother in a Pennsylvania coal town wore leather gloves to harvest the young spring tops, dropped them into a quart of water, and brewed a strong dark green tea she gave to anyone in the family with hay fever, joint pain, anemia, or the spring weakness that followed a long winter. Cooked or fermented, the sting disappears entirely. Nettle contains histamine-modulating polyphenols, documented anti-inflammatory effects, and one of the highest mineral concentrations of any common wild plant on the continent. A 2009 paper in the journal Phytotherapy Research documented stinging nettle extract reducing allergic rhinitis symptoms in a randomized trial. To ferment, fill a pint jar with blanched young nettle tops, cover with 2% salt brine, seal loosely, and ferment 7 days. Your county forestry service is brush hogging this plant every June. Your great-grandmother was harvesting it. Number 10. Mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris. Every old railroad embankment, every neglected lot, every dirt road shoulder from Maine to the Pacific Northwest grows mugwort as a 4-foot-tall, silver-leafed Asian origin invasive. Your great-grandmother in a Korean immigrant household in 1920s San Francisco harvested the young mugwort leaves in early summer, dried them, and rolled them into the underside of every pillow in the house. She also brewed a teaspoon of the dried leaves into a single cup of hot water and gave it to anyone in the family complaining of insomnia, fragmented dreams, or the menstrual cramps that knock a woman to the floor. Mugwort contains thujon, the same compound in absinthe, at low, non-toxic concentrations that the brain reads as sedative and dream-enhancing. To ferment, fill a half-pint jar with dried mugwort leaves, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 21 days. Use 1 teaspoon 30 minutes before sleep. Your county weed control is spraying mugwort as a noxious invasive. Your Korean great-grandmother was sleeping under it. Number 9. Cleavers, Galium aperine. Every American old fence line, every shaded creek bank, every woodlot edge in spring grows cleavers as a sticky-leafed sprawling annual with tiny white flowers between April and June. Your great-grandmother in a New England farmhouse pulled it by the armful in early May, before the seed set, and steeped it cold in a glass jar of spring water overnight. She gave a cup of the resulting bitter green water to anyone in the family with swollen glands, lingering colds, or skin breakouts that would not clear. Clover is the most documented lymphatic drainage herb in Western herbal medicine, used continuously in British and American folk practice for 600 years. To ferment, fill a quart jar with chopped fresh clovers, cover with 2% salt brine, seal loosely and ferment 5 days. Drink 2 tablespoons every morning for 14 days during seasonal transitions. Your weed and feed is suppressing this plant every March. Your New England great-grandmother harvested it every May. Number 8. Sumac. Rhus tifana. Every American old field, every rural road shoulder, every neglected pasture from Pennsylvania to Texas grows staghorn sumac as a 15-foot tall multi-stem shrub with crimson cone-shaped berry clusters in late summer. Your great-grandfather, in a Quaker household in central Pennsylvania, harvested the red berry clusters in August before the first rain washed the surface acids off, soaked them in cold water for 3 hours, and strained the resulting pink lemonade-tasting beverage. He gave it to his grandchildren on hot summer afternoons instead of buying lemonade from the grocery. Staghorn sumac berries contain ascorbic acid at concentrations exceeding 100 milligrams per 100 grams of dried surface coating, plus tannins that contribute anti-inflammatory activity. To ferment, fill a quart jar with crushed dried sumac berries, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 21 days. The finished sumac honey is a vitamin C supplement and respiratory tonic your Quaker great-grandfather brewed every August. Your county forestry department is cutting it down because it spreads aggressively. He was waiting all year for the harvest. We are halfway. Stay with me, because item number 2 is the single plant the modern obstetric literature has documented across 4 randomized controlled trials as reducing labour complications by an average of 38%. Number 1 is the plant the European Pharmacopoeia still lists, in 2026, as an official cardiovascular medicine. Number 7, violet, Viola odorata. Every American shaded lawn, every woodlot, every old garden bed grows wild violet between March and May, as a low-spreading mat of heart-shaped leaves and small purple flowers. Your great-grandmother in a Virginia farmhouse picked the violet flowers every April, dropped them into a half-pint of raw honey, and let them steep through the summer. She also boiled the leaves into a thick green tea she rubbed onto her grandchildren's lymph nodes during cold and flu season. Violet leaves contain mucilage compounds and saponins with documented lymphatic drainage activity, plus salicylic acid precursors at low concentration. To ferment, fill a half-pint jar with fresh violet flowers and young leaves, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 21 days. The finished violet honey is a lymphatic and respiratory support preparation your Virginia great-grandmother kept on the shelf year-round. Your lawn service treats this plant as a broadleaf weed. She treated it as medicine. Number 6. Wild lettuce, Lactuca virosa. Every roadside ditch, every neglected field, every disturbed lot in America grows wild lettuce as a 3 to 6 foot tall, jagged-leafed annual with milky white sap. Your great-grandmother in any American village pharmacy household between 1820 and 1916 carried a small bottle of dried wild lettuce sap called Lactucarium, which was an official medicinal in the United States Pharmacopoeia for those 96 continuous years. She gave it to anyone who could not sleep through pain. She gave it to her own husband for chronic back pain. Helena Kowalska, the village pharmacist in occupied Poland in 1944, gave it to a 14-year-old boy with a broken femur who had not slept in 4 days. He slept 6 hours. He survived the war. To ferment, fill a half-pint jar with fresh wild lettuce leaves, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 14 days. The finished honey is the standard American Preambian sleep medicine your great-grandmother used through the entire 19th and early 20th centuries. Your county roads department is mowing it down every July. She was steeping it in honey. Number 5, malign, Verbascum thapsus. Every American old field, every disturbed roadside, every neglected dirt road shoulder from Maine to California grows mullein as a 6-foot-tall biennial with large velvety silver-green leaves in the first year, and a tall yellow flower spike in the second year. Your great-grandmother in a Tennessee mountain homestead picked the large soft first-year leaves, dried them on screens in the kitchen attic, and rolled the dried leaves into cigarettes she gave to her own father for his persistent wet cough. She also steeped the dried leaves in raw honey for the entire family during winter respiratory illnesses. Mullein contains saponins and mucilage compounds that loosen mucus and reduce respiratory irritation. A 2002 paper in the journal Phytomedicine documented mullein extract demonstrating antiviral activity against influenza A virus in laboratory conditions. To ferment, fill a half-pint jar with dried mullein leaves and flowers, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 21 days. The finished mullein honey is a cough preparation that predates every commercial cough syrup on every American pharmacy shelf. Your great-grandmother was rolling it into cigarettes for her father. Number 4, St. John's wort, Hypericum perforatum. Every American old field, every railway embankment, every neglected pasture from June through August, blooms in bright yellow stands of St. John's wort. Your great-grandmother in a German immigrant household on a Texas farm picked the bright yellow flowers on the longest day of the year, dropped them into a pint of olive oil, and set the jar on a sunny windowsill for 6 weeks. The oil turned a deep blood red. She rubbed the red oil onto her own legs to relieve nerve pain. She gave a teaspoon of the macerated oil to anyone in the family struggling with what she called the dark winter mind. Saint. John's wort contains hypericin and hyperforin, 2 compounds with documented effects on serotonin reuptake and brain-derived neurotrophic factor levels, comparable to first-line SSRI antidepressant medication in mild to moderate depression. The 2008 Cochrane review of 29 trials documented St. John's wort matching sertraline and fluoxetine in efficacy across mild to moderate depression. To ferment, fill a half-pint jar with fresh St. John's wort flowers in late June. Cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 6 weeks in sunlight. Your county forestry service is treating it as livestock toxic invasive. Your German great-grandmother carried it across the Atlantic in her trunk. Number 3, linden flower. Tilia americana. Every old American town square, every cemetery, every park boulevard from Boston to Minneapolis has at least one mature linden tree producing fragrant pale yellow flowers in late June every year. Your great-grandmother in a Boston tenement household harvested the flowers on a single afternoon in late June, dried them on screens in the kitchen, and steeped them in raw honey through the summer. She gave a teaspoon of the resulting honey to anyone in the family with anxiety, with sleeplessness, with the stress headache that follows a hard week of work. Linden flower contains flavonoid glycosides and farnesol, with documented anxiolytic and mild blood pressure lowering effects. A 2010 paper in the journal Phytotherapy Research documented tilia preparations reducing systolic blood pressure in a 4-week trial. To ferment, fill a half-pint jar with dried linden flowers, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 21 days. The finished linden honey is a nightly calmer your great-grandmother gave her family before bed through the entire summer. Number 2, raspberry leaf. Rubus idaeus. Every American old farm fence line, every roadside, every neglected hedgerow grows red raspberry as a thorny perennial cane with palmate green leaves available continuously from April through October. Your great-grandmother in any American household with a pregnant woman in the family gathered the second-year raspberry leaves, dried them on screens, and brewed them into a daily tea she gave to the pregnant woman starting at week 28. The Lakota, the Cherokee, the Iroquois, and the European folk medical traditions all independently use red raspberry leaf for the same purpose in the 3rd trimester. The 2018 Cochrane review of 4 randomized controlled trials documented red raspberry leaf preparation use during late pregnancy, reducing the rate of labor complications by an average of 38%, including a measurable reduction in cesarean section rate and forceps delivery rate. To ferment, fill a quart jar with dried raspberry leaves, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 28 days. Your great-grandmother gave a tablespoon to every pregnant woman in the family between weeks 28 and 40. Modern obstetric medicine took 100 years to confirm she was right, and now the climax. Number 1, the single backyard weed listed as an official cardiovascular medicine in the European Pharmacopoeia in 2026, the same plant that grows wild across every American old fence line and pasture margin, from the Atlantic to the Mississippi River, the plant that has been documented in modern peer-reviewed cardiology research more extensively than any other wild medicinal in Western herbalism. Hawthorn, Crataegus monogyna and Crataegus laevigata. The story begins in the year 659 in a Saxon monastery in the English county of Northumberland, when an abbot named Egbert documented in a manuscript that the small red berries from the thorny hedge growing around the monastery grounds prevented what his contemporaries called the rapid old heart, what modern medicine calls congestive heart failure. Egbert's manuscript survives. Hawthorn has been continuously used in European folk medicine for at least 1,367 years. The German Commission E, the official German government Botanical Medicine Review Board, approved hawthorn berry and leaf preparations as a cardiovascular medicine in 1984, listed for documented use in Stage 1 and Stage 2 congestive heart failure. The European Medicines Agency reviewed hawthorn in 2016 and reaffirmed the cardiovascular medicinal status. A 2008 Cochrane review of 14 randomized controlled trials documented hawthorn preparations reducing symptoms of mild to moderate heart failure across 855 patients. The mechanism is documented as increased coronary blood flow, mild positive inotropic effect on cardiac muscle, and antioxidant activity in vascular endothelium. Your great-grandmother in any American household with elderly heart disease patients harvested the small red hawthorn berries every September from the thorny hedge growing along the fence line, dropped them into a quart jar with raw honey, and let them ferment for 60 days. She gave a tablespoon every morning to her own father-in-law for the last 9 years of his life. He lived to 94. To ferment, fill a pint jar with crushed dried hawthorn berries or fresh chopped young leaves, cover with raw honey, seal, and steep 60 days. The European Pharmacopoeia in 2026 still lists this preparation as an official cardiovascular medicine. Your county forestry service is removing the thorny hawthorn hedges from your road shoulders because they catch snowdrifts. The German government considers the same plant standard medical practice. Here is my challenge. Try one of these this week. Just one. Pick the dandelion roots this October. Find the mugwort along your nearest railway embankment. Walk past your nearest old linden tree on the next sunny afternoon and gather the flowers before the heat takes them. I started a red clover honey jar 4 weeks ago, and I have given a teaspoon every evening to my own mother for hot flashes. She has stopped reaching for the box of black cohosh capsules sitting on the bathroom counter. Share which one you're going to make first in the comments. I want to see if the wild lettuce gets more love than the hawthorn berry. Because these were not just weeds. They were the entire pharmacy a 41-year-old Alabama farm wife used to raise 4 children, manage her own grief, and live 53 more years without paying for a single prescription. Your grandmother knew, now you know too. If you want me to walk you through making your first one by the weekend, grab my free 5-day course, The Lost Ferment, linked in the description. 1 ferment a day, your first finished by Saturday. No cost.